There is a city in South Africa called Pretoria. Hot, dry, a city of wide streets and jacaranda trees that turn purple every spring. A city that in the 1970s and 1980s was living under one of the most brutal systems of racial oppression the modern world had seen: apartheid. It was into this world, on the 28th of June 1971, that a baby boy was born. His name was Elon Musk, and nobody could have imagined what he would become. His father, Elon Musk, was a successful electromechanical engineer, a complicated man, difficult, demanding, a man who built a considerable fortune, properties, an emerald trading business, luxury cars, a yacht, a plane, a man who had so much money we couldn't even close our safe, as he later told journalists. A man who, according to his own son, was also something else entirely. In a rare interview in 2017, Elon described his father as a terrible human being. He said Errol had done almost every crime you can think of. His mother, May Musk, was a model and dietitian, beautiful, strong, resilient. A woman who, after divorcing Errol in 1979, would work 5 jobs simultaneously at one point to support herself and her children. When his parents divorced, young Elon made a decision he would later regret. He chose to live with his father, because his father had something Elon wanted more than anything else in the world: an Encyclopedia Britannica set and a computer that tells you everything you need to know about Elon Musk at 9 years old. He chose knowledge over comfort. He chose a difficult father over an easier life. Because even at 9, he was already hungry for something most children his age could not have named. He wanted to understand how the world worked, and then he wanted to change it. Elon Musk was, by every account, a deeply unhappy child. He was small, introverted, bookish in a way that made him an outsider. He read constantly, voraciously, encyclopedias, science fiction, fantasy, Isaac Asimov, Robert Heinlein, The Lord of the Rings, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He was so absorbed in reading that his parents and teachers became genuinely concerned about his hearing. They thought he could not hear them. He could hear them. He was just somewhere else entirely. Inside a book. Inside a future he was already building in his mind. At school he was bullied. Not casually bullied. Severely, physically, relentlessly bullied. The worst incident happened at Bryanston High School. A group of boys hunted him down. They threw him down a flight of stairs. Then they beat him, repeatedly, brutally, until he lost consciousness. He was hospitalized. When he came home from the hospital, his father screamed at him for an hour, took the attacker's side, called him an idiot, told him he was worthless. Neither Elon nor his brother Kimball speaks to their father today, but the boy who was thrown downstairs and beaten unconscious did not become someone who gave up. He became someone who learned to fight. At 10 years old, Elon Musk got his first computer, a Commodore VIC-20. It came with a manual that said learning to use it should take 6 months. Elon finished it in 3 days. He taught himself to code, and at 12 years old, he sold his first product, a video game he had built himself called Blastar, to a computer magazine for $500. He was 12 years old, and he had just become an entrepreneur. In 1988, Elon Musk turned 17. South Africa required all young men to serve in the military, the apartheid military, a military that enforced racial oppression. Elon had no intention of serving it. He also had a bigger reason to leave. South Africa felt small to him, limited, a country with borders, political, social, psychological, that he could already feel pressing against the size of his ambitions. He wanted America, the country he had read about in science fiction, the country where people built things, where ideas became companies, where the future was being invented. His mother was Canadian by birth. He used that to get a Canadian passport. In 1989, at 17 years old, Elon Musk left South Africa. He arrived in Canada with almost nothing. He worked odd jobs, farm work, cleaning boilers at a lumber mill. He slept on couches. He called distant relatives he had never met and asked if he could stay. He enrolled at Queen's University in Ontario. 2 years later, he transferred to the University of Pennsylvania in the United States. He had made it to America. He studied physics and economics. He had identified 3 areas that he believed would most change humanity's future: the internet, sustainable energy, space. In 1995, he was accepted to a PhD program at Stanford University in California. He showed up for the first day, and then he left. After 2 days, because the internet was exploding, the World Wide Web was new and wild and full of possibility, and Elon Musk could not sit in a classroom while the future was being built in garages across Silicon Valley. He left Stanford, and he started a company. The company was called Zip2. Elon started it with his brother Kimball in 1995. An online city guide for newspapers, maps, business directories. They had almost no money. They coded through the night. They slept in the office on a futon to save the cost of an apartment. They showered at a local IMCA. Elon later said, "The website was up during the day and I was coding it at night, 7 days a week, all the time." They got contracts with the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune. And in February 1999, Compaq acquired Zip2 for $307 million. Elon's personal share, $22 million. He was 27 years old. Most people at 27 with $22 million would stop. Elon Musk did not stop. He immediately started another company because $22 million was not the point. The point was always the future. In 1999, Elon Musk co-founded X.com, an online financial services and payments company. The idea was radical, moving money over the internet, banking online. People thought consumers would never trust the internet with their money. They were wrong. Within months, X.com had over 200,000 customers, but the board replaced him as CEO while he was on his honeymoon. X.com eventually merged with a competitor called Confinity, founded by Peter Thiel and Max Levchin. Confinity had a money transfer product called PayPal. Elon came back as CEO of the merged company, and in October 2002, eBay acquired PayPal for $1.5 billion. Elon Musk's share, approximately $180 million. He was 31 years old, and instead of retiring, instead of buying an island or a mansion in Malibu, he did something that everyone who knew him thought was insane. He took almost all of it and bet it on 2 ideas that the entire world said were impossible: electric cars and reusable rockets. He said later, "I thought we had about a 10% chance of success with either company. I just accepted that they would probably both fail and decided to do it anyway." Let that sink in. He thought he had a 10% chance of success, and he did it anyway. In 2002, Elon Musk founded SpaceX, Space Exploration Technologies Corporation. The goal: reduce the cost of reaching space by 90%, make humanity a multiplanetary species, get humans to Mars. He went to Russia to try to buy old rockets. The Russians laughed at him. He flew home and started doing calculations on a spreadsheet. The calculations showed the cost of raw materials for a rocket was only about 3% of the selling price. Rockets were not expensive because the materials were expensive. They were expensive because nobody was building them efficiently. He would build them himself. SpaceX set up in a warehouse in El Segundo, California. They hired young engineers willing to work 80 to 100 hours a week. They built almost everything in-house, and then they started launching. The first rocket failed. The second rocket failed. The third rocket failed. 3 launches, 3 failures, hundreds of millions of dollars gone. The year 2008. Elon Musk had 2 companies: SpaceX, which had just failed its 3rd rocket launch and had enough money for exactly 1 more attempt; Tesla, an electric car company he had invested in and taken over as CEO, which was burning through cash and had not yet delivered a single production vehicle. And then the global financial crisis hit, the worst economic collapse since the Great Depression, banks failing, companies going bankrupt, the US government bailing out General Motors. Elon Musk, with his unproven electric car company and his rocket company that had failed 3 times, was out of money, completely, genuinely out of money. He had put his entire PayPal fortune into these 2 companies. There was nothing left. He was borrowing money from friends to pay his personal rent. He gave a public interview during this period. A journalist asked how he was doing. He started to cry. On camera, in front of everyone, he said later, "I never thought I would be someone who borrowed money from friends to pay for rent." His marriage was collapsing under the pressure. He had 5 young sons. SpaceX had 1 shot left, 1 rocket, 1 launch. If it failed, SpaceX was finished. The dream of Mars, of cheaper space travel, dead. The 4th Falcon 1 launched on the 28th of September 2008. Elon Musk watched from the control room. It worked. For the first time in SpaceX history, a Falcon 1 rocket reached orbit. Weeks later, NASA awarded SpaceX a $1.6 billion contract. SpaceX was saved, but Tesla was still dying. Christmas Eve 2008. Elon Musk took the last of his available money and split it between SpaceX and Tesla. If either company had asked for more that week, there was nothing left to give. He told Tesla's board, "I will be dead broke if we do not close this funding round." They closed it. By a margin of hours, both companies survived, by the width of a razor blade. For years after 2008, the world still laughed at Elon Musk. Electric cars were a joke. Reusable rockets were impossible. Everyone in the aerospace industry said so. Elon Musk said, "Watch me." In 2012, Tesla delivered the Model S, a sleek, beautiful, long-range electric sedan that won more automotive awards than any car in history. It proved that electric cars could be desirable, could be fast, could be objects people actually wanted to drive. In December 2015, SpaceX landed an orbital rocket booster back on land for the first time in history. The video went viral overnight. The aerospace industry was stunned. They started doing it routinely, again and again, 50 times, 100 times. The cost of reaching space dropped by more than 90%, and Elon Musk was no longer a joke. He was the man who had done the impossible twice. The years after 2015 were years of acceleration. Tesla launched vehicle after vehicle, Model X, Model 3, Model Y, the Cybertruck, each one pushing further into the mass market. Tesla became the most valuable automaker in the world, more valuable than Toyota, Volkswagen, and General Motors combined. SpaceX launched Starlink, a constellation of satellites that brought high-speed internet to remote areas of the world that had never had reliable connectivity. In 2025, Starlink generated $11.4 billion in revenue. He bought Twitter in 2022 for $44 billion. The world said he overpaid. Advertisers fled. Commentators declared it dead. It survived. He founded xAI, an artificial intelligence company. He founded Neuralink, building brain-computer interfaces that have allowed paralyzed people to control devices with their thoughts. And then, on the 12th of June 2026, something happened that had never happened in human history. SpaceX completed its initial public offering on the Nasdaq Stock Exchange, the largest IPO in history, raising $75 billion, valuing SpaceX at $1.77 trillion. And on that day, as SpaceX shares began trading, Forbes calculated the net worth of the man who owned 38% of the company, $1 trillion. Elon Musk became the world's first trillionaire, the first human being in history whose personal wealth exceeded $1 trillion. The boy who was thrown down a flight of stairs in South Africa. The boy whose father called him worthless. The boy who slept on a futon in a Silicon Valley office and showered at the IMCA was worth $1 trillion. Once there was a boy in Pretoria. He read encyclopedias while other boys played sports. He taught himself to code from a manual while other kids watched television. He was thrown downstairs and beaten and told he was worthless. And he looked at all of it, all the pain, all the mockery, all the failure, and decided it was information, not a reason to stop. 3 rockets failed, learn from each one and build a 4th. 2 companies almost bankrupt in the same week. Find a way to save both. The world laughing at electric cars, keep building until they stop laughing. He is not perfect. His personal life is complicated. His behavior has cost him allies and created enemies. His political positions are divisive. But the story of Elon Musk is ultimately the story of one question. What happens when someone refuses absolutely, completely, irrationally refuses to accept that something is impossible. The answer is sitting in front of you. Electric cars that changed an industry, rockets that land themselves, satellites connecting the world, a $1 trillion fortune, and a dream still burning, still unfinished, of sending human beings to Mars. The future is not yet complete. Elon Musk is not done. And the world, whether it loves him or fears him or cannot decide, is watching. Thank you for watching Shadow Files. If this story moved you, subscribe for more new stories every week.